Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving straight into the real, grounded data behind replacing a roof right here in Central Florida. Look, it's a massive expense, and navigating the market for a new roof in 2026 can honestly feel just as treacherous as a summer hurricane. So, we're going to clear the air and give you the exact framework you need to understand what this project should actually cost you.
Let's kick things off by addressing the absolute biggest anxiety every homeowner faces when the time finally comes to replace their roof. Are you getting a fair deal, or are you about to severely overpay? It is incredibly easy to get taken for a ride if you don't know the baseline numbers. So let's jump right in and see what the 2026 data actually tells us.
The 2026 data shows a massive total cost range. We're talking anywhere from $8,900 all the way up to $38,000. Now I know what you're thinking. That is a ridiculously wide gap. But this range covers literally everything in the market. The absolute bottom end, around that $8,900 mark, is generally reserved for very small townhomes with shared roof lines or super simple re-roofing projects on homes under 1,500 square feet. On the flip side, that $38,000 top end, that represents sprawling, complex roof lines upgraded with premium standing seam metal or heavy tile, which requires highly specialized labor and serious structural reinforcement. But hey, let's narrow this down to what most of you are actually facing. For a typical 2,000 square foot single-family home in Orlando using high-quality architectural asphalt shingles, the median expenditure lands right at $15,600. Now, this assumes a full tear-off of the old roof, installing brand new underlayment, and bringing absolutely everything up to current 2026 code requirements. So how do those prices actually break down? Think of it in three specific material tiers for a standard 2,100 square foot single-story home. Down in the basic tier, you're getting 30-year rated shingles and synthetic underlayment. Move up to the mid-range, which, by the way, is where most homeowners land, and you start seeing 50-year or lifetime shingles, along with the incredibly important peel-and-stick secondary water barrier. Finally, the premium tier shifts you entirely out of asphalt and into metal or tile. That gives you a 50-plus year material lifespan and some pretty massive insurance discounts. Now, if you've ever stared at a five-figure quote and thought, where on earth is all my money actually going? Well, here is the exact breakdown for a typical mid-range project. Materials take up the lion's share at 45%. Labor is right behind it at 30%. The contractor's overhead and profit sit at a pretty standard 15%. And finally, you've got 5% for your city or county permits and another 5% just to safely dispose of your old roof in a dumpster. Section 1. The Orlando Price Premium. You might be wondering why these prices seem noticeably higher than they would be for a rural project. Well, Orlando residents pay a 10 to 20% premium, and it really comes down to a few major factors. First up is labor. Median hourly wages for roofers here are very competitive, ranging from $23.15 up to $31.50 for highly experienced installers. Second is the Florida Building Code. Because of our extreme hurricane risk, the mandates here are some of the strictest in the entire nation. Contractors have to use precise, time-consuming nailing patterns and often install a full peel-and-stick water barrier. Honestly, just those code mandates alone at $1.50 to $2.50 per square foot. Throw in strict HOA regulations in neighborhoods like Winter Park or Baldwin Park, which require meticulous daily cleanups, and the overhead naturally rises. And this brings us to a major paradigm shift. If your whole strategy is simply shopping around for the absolute cheapest price per square foot of shingles, you are making a critical financial error. The true value of a roof in Central Florida is not in the shingles themselves. The right focus is treating your new roof as a meticulously engineered system, one that's specifically designed to maximize wind mitigation and drastically slash your insurance premiums. Get this. $17,100. That is the massive amount you could actually save in homeowners' insurance premiums over 15 years, just by investing upfront in a fully code-compliant, wind-mitigated roofing system. Let's do the math real quick. The average annual premium in Orange County is about $3,800. A proper roof can trigger an authentic 30% discount on the hurricane portion of your policy. That's over $1,100 in savings every single year. Over 15 years, those savings can literally exceed the entire initial cost of the roof itself. No joke. But here's the catch. You don't just get those savings automatically. You have to get the Wind Mitigation Inspection Form, officially known as OIR-B1-1802. This document proves to your insurance carrier that your roof isn't just cosmetic. It verifies you have that peel-and-stick secondary water barrier and proper roof deck attachment nail spacing. Now, upgrading to that peel and stick barrier might add 8 to 15% to your upfront quote, but your payback period through insurance savings is often an incredible 1 to 2 years.
Section 2, where budgets go to die, hidden surprises. Okay, let's have a real talk about what happens when your initial quote doesn't actually paint the whole picture. There are 8 really common line items that contractors often omit or vaguely estimate just to make their initial bid look cheaper. We're talking about things like fascia and soffit repair, bringing attic ventilation up to code, replacing old flashing instead of just reusing it, or even unforeseen structural repairs to your trusses. If these things aren't explicitly detailed in your initial contract, they are going to drastically inflate your final bill as unexpected extras.
But you know what the absolute most frequent budget killer is? Undiscovered wood rot. In Orlando's humid climate, with years of intense baking sun and heavy rain, moisture just slowly degrades your roof. A contractor might quote you assuming they only have to replace 0 to 5 sheets of plywood decking. But once they tear those old shingles off, man, it is incredibly common to find that 15 to 25% of your decking is soft, delaminated, and completely ruined. At $100 or more per sheet installed, that can easily add thousands of dollars to your invoice in a matter of hours.
So that seemingly cheap initial quote, yeah, it's often just the starting line. You've got your base quote, but then you add in the hidden wood rot that's almost inevitably discovered. Finally, you add in scope creep, which is when you, the homeowner, decide, while the crew is already out there, that you also want new gutters or maybe a solar-powered attic fan. Before you know it, that cheap initial bid has skyrocketed well past the quote of the more expensive but much more honest contractor.
To protect yourself from these nasty overages, the National Association of Home Builders has a very clear rule of thumb. You must hold a dedicated financial cushion, specifically a 10 to 15% contingency fund, especially if your home is over 30 years old. If your quote is $15,000, you need to have an extra $1,500 to $2,250 sitting in the bank, fully expecting to use it on necessary repairs like decking or fascia.
Section 3, securing a bulletproof quote. So, how do you actually make sure you're getting what you pay for without getting taken advantage of? You demand a professional multi-page quote. A vague one-page estimate is a massive red flag. You absolutely must see explicit details like proof of general liability and workers' comp insurance. You want a detailed scope of work that explicitly says full tear-off down to the wood deck. You need exact material specifications, not just new shingles, but the exact brand and color. And, crucially, it must state the exact price per sheet for replacing damaged decking so they can't price gouge you once the roof is wide open.
And honestly, it doesn't stop there. You also need a written ventilation plan and fastener specs proving they actually meet Florida's rigorous wind uplift codes. Don't forget a cleanup clause guaranteeing they will magnetically sweep your yard for nails. And you absolutely want to see a clear payment schedule alongside separate warranties for both the manufacturer's materials and the contractor's actual workmanship. Getting all of this in writing ensures every single part of the system is documented before a single hammer swings.
Now, here's a crucial variable that almost everyone ignores: timing. Orlando roofers are absolutely swamped from June through November because of summer storms and peak hurricane emergency demand. If you have the luxury of planning ahead, booking your project in the late winter, roughly January through March, is your ideal window. You'll find way better crew availability, and you can often secure labor quotes that are 5% to 10% lower just because contractors are eager to keep their teams busy during the off-season. All right, when it comes time to actually pay for the project, you really need to weigh these 3 common financing paths carefully before signing any contract. Paying with cash or a home equity line of credit, a HELOC, gives you the lowest total cost and the absolute most negotiating leverage. Contractor financing is super convenient, but be aware it often comes with an 8% to 15% APR. Lastly, an insurance claim is totally viable, but really only when you have documented, legitimate storm damage, not just normal age and wear and tear. As you move forward with your project, ask yourself this one final question. Are you just buying shingles, or are you investing in a system? Because the true value isn't in the asphalt, it's in the unseen underlayment and ventilation that protects your home and saves you thousands in the long run. So before you sign that contract, take a long, hard look at exactly what you're paying for. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and we'll catch you on the next one.